as well. I was already given this curse being born. Yeah, it's older now. But the funny thing about fire, it lights up just like heaven, yeah. I got some walking meaning. Yeah, the mirror's getting tinted. Seeing deep was the vision. Only God is the witness. Whoever come against me, pull that trigger. Hey, one of them is dance, please. It's too many times I gotta ask for forgiveness. This time I'm asking for permission. Okay. It is time. It is time, kid. It is time for Thinking Full Thursday. I've been in the beautiful, on the beautiful island of St. Simon. Just one day with my cousin Kid, getting some major things done. She has offered her voice up to me, even though she's struggling a little bit with it, to be one of the narrators for 25 years.
Yes, 25
audio
years.
Book. Yes, we are reading the memoir and we're like 95% done. We're trying to push for our deadline to get it into the engineer's hand to get it ready to be released for Christmas, for December the 18th.
So exciting.
Yes, it's so exciting. So it is 8:28, y'all, and we know what? We know this. All things work together for the good, for them who love the Lord, and for those who are called and their life is according to that purpose.
Amen.
It's about the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the purpose. So one of the things that we wanted to delve into, I want to say, I need to apologize about last week. I was so floored, for lack of a better word, when everything was in the news and I was hearing the conversation and I was seeing people on the side of the road with signs and saying how they have children and they are part of those who will be left behind with not being able to receive their SNAP benefits. And I began to just really think about, as an educator, as a mental health professional, and as a mom and someone who came through the system on the side of, when I say the education system, with knowing and understanding what happens to a family that's a part of that their income. It's how they make provision for their children. And so last week I was like, I was just like, I want us to talk about ways and how we can help. Now I was saying how ways that we can help, because I was hoping that you in the audience, hey cousin Robert, how you doing? I was hoping that you in the audience was going to help me with coming up ways and how we really can help. Now, and then looking at and just compelling you to look in to what your city, your town, your state is offering in lieu of what's going on with the SNAP benefit being held up. I wasn't going to give details, but there's a lot of things that if you want me to share with you how you can help the mission and vision of Directions, Inc. and our partnership with Northwest Behavior, just DM me and we can set a time and I can really show you how to help. I want to thank those of you who did reach out to me and DM me about ways that you can help. Check your DM, because I did respond to those of you who was asking me in specific ways of how we can help. So yes, so we're talking about Thinking for a Thursday, our listening party segment. I'm so excited about my guests. And so in our opening, we was talking about how last week we discussed how the lack of nourishment and having a full course meal and getting the full nutritional value of each meal, of 3 meals a day, is being affected by them not receiving the SNAP, and how then it affects the brain development.
Oh, yes.
And so we talked about that, and we always want to focus on why. Why are we doing this? We kicked this off in the month of May when we were talking about Mental Health Awareness Month, and we want to bring awareness to the lack of mental health awareness first, mental wealth awareness in our community, and mental wealth care plan and mental wealth treatment plan, especially as it relates to trauma, because a lot of us, trauma, we even looking at studies now where trauma is tied up, stored up in our DNA. I mentioned this before, Dr. Joy DeBrewer, potato, but she has what's called the slave syndrome, where what we have, and it's what's called social dissonant. And I may be messing that up, from the 31537. But anyway, where it talks about even in our DNA. So now, where I want to bring it in today, as we talk about awareness and what it looked like in the school setting. You have school age children, and your oldest child. We have children around about the same age. So can you talk about? I want you to share what our topic the topic is tonight, about what we was finding and what was going on in research as we was preparing for this evening. I want to be able to share a little bit more in detail. So in the post we started out with
the topic for tonight being misdiagnosis and treatment disparities in Black children. And how Black children are more likely to be diagnosed with disruptive disorders like ADHD. And a lot of that has to do with the cultural, different cultures. You have majority white schools that have a sprinkle or two of the Black children in the school setting, or the colored children in the school setting, and they just don't they aren't raised the same. We don't have the same standards as far as discipline and things like that when it comes to even expressive natures of our children, which can be seen as being disruptive when really it's just in
how
their nature.
We loud, we country,
right.
We'll tend to be a little bit what they can call aggressive. One of the things that when I was studying as an educator, young coming out of college, my junior year and my senior year in college, same school that I ended up being hired on as a full-time teacher, I subbed there, and it was Memorial Middle School in Orlando, Florida, in Orange County. And my specialty was in the area of working with children that had IEP. IEP, with exceptional education, that had a specific education plan for them. And one of the things that we found with our children in that they have to be taught differently. And so we're in this European society where when I was studying, it's three ways that we can learn, and that's visual, audible, and then tactile. Touch, by touching and actually doing a thing. And that is where our children tend to fall in, where it becoming a behavior problem, where they're anxious, like our children are wired, they're anxious to get involved and to not want to sit down, because they're higher in energy as well.
Yes.
And so they tend to be like, kind of stand out in that class. I'm really an advocate for the classroom, like how we, and not the classroom, but then also from the classroom to the principal office, and to the board of education, in how if we talking about how our children are being misdiagnosed, where is these reports being channeled from? So when we got the behavior, most of these, when you look at something like ADHD, that is an observation. Now, and if we look at it, say our children, one of our children was a child was diagnosed with schizophrenia. That is more on the side of not just behavioral observation, but there is a cause and effect within the brain that is causing them to do. So that is more of an illness, and not on the behavior side. And what it's saying here is that when it comes down to diagnose in our children, they're gonna attach it to their behavior. And what was the behavior that we were talking about? Instead of ADHD, it was gonna be
there's conditions like ADHD, oppositional defiant disorder, and there was another one, OC. But too, going back to the SNAP and
hey, cousin Ruby Chavis. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Things like that become stressors in the low income home, which, you know, a majority of our Black community are, you know, classified as those low income homes. We are receiving those stamps. So whether they, you know, take into account or not the things like withholding those stamps and causing those extra stressors on those households, it also affects the brain and how those children react in those stressful situations. And a lot of the times, you know, children, if you notice, children act differently with one parent versus the other, or even in different settings. Even in different classrooms, you might have one teacher that they feel safe and comfortable around, and they will have a whole nother, you know, demeanor around that person because they feel more comfortable than, you know, in a different classroom.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And so they tend to, our children are higher in their discernment, where they can pick up easily where they are being what's the word I'm looking for, not ostracized, but it's been magnified on them and their behavior. They can feel that.
Yes.
I think I mentioned this before.
Very different treatment.
Yeah, I mentioned this before. Well, I had homeschooled my children for 7 years. Well, my son 6, my daughter 7. He ended up going back to the public school setting before my daughter did. But one of the reasons was I began to pick up on that. And then my children, because they was considered like above their peers in that it's something called, it's and I'm gonna just share this right here because it's called precocious puberty, and it's where they develop their brain, their body, their socially, emotionally. For a long time, my children have been able to have conversations with the average adult. That was one of the behaviors that was a problem. It was problematic for Genesis. When she was in pre-K. Zion, he went through pre-K. By the time he left pre-K, he was reading. It was still doing hook on phonics and everything. He had a phonics teacher. I never Miss Letitia. But shout out to Miss Letitia. You out there, girl. You would really work wonders at the gingerbread house. But anyway, Zion was reading by the time he was going to kindergarten. We had a harder time with Genesis because as females, as female children, we are female women, we're a child, we talk more. Mm-hmm. Yes. We have more of a conversation, and whereas if I done taught her that she have a voice at home to talk or question, it's not what you saying more than how you're saying it to me. If you trying to convey, that is a certain problem too that we have with
children. Know when you are mishandling them and disrespecting them and treating them differently. They do.
Yes.
You can definitely feel it. And another issue with that, those issues and why our children are being diagnosed that way is because the mental health professionals, they are not taking into account the outside influence or the cultural factors that play a part in how the child behaves.
Exactly.
It says 70% of them actually don't think it's a significant influence. So that is really a concerning factor when you think about our Black children being 2 times more diagnosed with these disruptive disorders
and being overly diagnosed
and medicated,
and that's
hushed, quieted.
Under the rug.
We don't want to hear you.
And I want us to be just as passionate, and I touched on it last week. I was really disappointed. We was, but not too much disappointed. The reason why we had to cancel, well, not cancel the Ken O'Mara bow tie classic golf tournament to bring awareness to mental health is now going to be moved to MLK weekend. And once I get all the information, I'll start pushing that. But I want to thank the people who did reach out and is going to be a part of that. So, and we got another awesome thing that we're going to be planning for this weekend. I'm trying to wait till next week before I can really, really push what we're going to be doing that same weekend with the public service announcement play at the MOCA. But anyway, we'll get more details on that. But one of the things that while we pushing this tournament and what we bring awareness, it's a partnership with Northwest Behavior Center where they service in the north side of Jacksonville, where they service our children in that area, and we're not even aware of it. And it's important for me that we talk about it. This is not something I want us to be just as excited about how we're going to be able to recognize what our children are facing, just as excited as we're about the holiday that's coming up. Think about all the people that's going to stand in line to, get whatever gift that child had asked for. How are we going to now be able to sow into this effort to have them service and to help us with carrying this conversation a little bit further?
We definitely need more advocates in the school system. There's counselors there, but they're just there to put out the fires, I believe. It's not an actual support system and getting the information out. So now I guess they call it the IEP or the plan, the 504 plan, maybe I think they call it now.
504 as well.
I think, we need more education on looking into the ways that we can support our children to get a better environment, more study time, maybe a different classroom, just something that can benefit them and allow them to be in a space where they can thrive.
Yes.
it without having to worry about, the teacher wanting to quiet them in that setting because the other children, you know, or find them disruptive or that they're not wanted in that specific classroom. They need to have options, and we need to be there advocating for them. We don't have enough parents at the schoolhouse advocating for the children. Not just your children, all the children, all the Black children. We definitely need that.
Definitely. I want to see if I'm going to bring on Miss Power, Tara, my good friend. We're going to bring on for her full segment, but I want to get her to help us close out. She will tell a little bit about herself and introduce herself, and I want her to specifically tell us what she's seeing in as it relates to on topic of what we're talking about, how our children are being misdiagnosed or overly diagnosed. But that was good. A good point, kid.
Yes.
We got to come up with how that classroom setting, but we got to show up to the PTA meetings. We got to formulate and have a coalition that speaks out for our children. Are you going to be able to come on? First thing hadn't been working. Invite. That was an invite right there. Yeah, so anyway, as kid work on getting
It's adding, but it's not.
it says adding, but it's not. It says send request, and then what it says. But yeah, so if we're gonna get it, we can't get this thing figured out right now.
See if you get the
And there she go. All right, there go my
Well,
friend.
hello.
How are you?
I am wonderful. First, I want to say, please forgive my appearance.
You good,
I
girl.
did not prepare to come on tonight. I had a previous obligation, and that I needed to make sure that I fulfilled. And so I thank you for the opportunity to allow me to come on, even if it's just for a few moments.
Yes, you so welcome. You so welcome. So we was talking about how our children are overly diagnosed or diagnosed based on their behavior more than what they really are dealing with on the mental side. But what I want you to do is just introduce yourself, tell why I consider you as a professional, and a little bit about yourself and what is to come from you. And you can close it out. And you can touch on, if you want to touch on anything on what we was talking about, you don't, but tie it out and tie it in. So you have the floor.
Well,
So we have about 3 minutes.
Okay. My name is Terry Powell. My family and friends call me Tara. I have been working with Department of Family and Children Services for over 20 years. I am from small town Clarkston, Georgia. That's where all my roots is from. I am part of that Mobley clan that I hear all you folks talk about all the time. Johnny Mobley was my grandmother's brother. So we're all family. And of course, I'm very good friends with your cousin Sherry, who is one of my best friends, and who has took me to the wonderful town of Folkestone several times,
Oh,
and I
wow.
enjoyed it every time. So I just want to thank you, and I used to be an educator. I did used to sit on the board of education, and so I concur about how sometimes our children are misdiagnosed, are overly diagnosed. And I will say sometimes our kids are not diagnosed at all, and they need to be diagnosed.
That's it. Yeah.
So I want to say that because my oldest son, who is now 28 years old, I cannot believe I said that. He has Asperger autism, and he was diagnosed in pre-K. But it took me all the way until he was in first grade to accept his diagnosis. So, but I want to say that when people do diagnose your children, you need to be an advocate for your child. I'll be an advocate for my child as long as my child is on the face of this earth. until God called me
Okay.
home. I don't care how
Amen.
old they are. I will be an advocate for them. But I do want to say that you don't have to receive everything that's negative. When I was the educator, one of the first thing they taught me in my training was when I had parent teacher conference was to always lead with what the child was doing correctly. Sometimes teachers contact the parent or the guardian, and they're constantly telling them what the child is doing wrong, or what your child did this, your child did that. I remember being in a meeting one time, and I actually asked the teacher, do we do anything right?
Mm.
You know,
Wow.
I've actually
Wow.
had teachers say that they were intimidated by me because me and my husband would go to all of the parent teacher conferences
Been
together.
there.
And if they can't
Mm.
go, if they couldn't go, we couldn't go together, then we did not always go. We rescheduled it to the schedule was conclusive to both of our schedules. And
Mhm.
I actually had a friend, a teacher say to another group of teachers, and she didn't know that one of the teachers I was really good friends with at the time, say that we intimidated her because she's never seen that. Of course, she didn't look like us. And so
Yeah.
I was like, well, what? I'm just asking because I had my questions prepared ahead of time and I did my
I
research. And that was one of the reasons why I did run for the Board of Education,
wow.
because I felt like there was a lot of parents that was not willing to advocate um, for
Hmm.
their child. Some of the parents felt like they couldn't advocate for their child. They felt like they wasn't educated enough or understood enough, so they didn't advocate at all. So that's one of the reasons why I did sit on the Board of Education for 2 terms, and I advocated for everybody's child,
That's
and I
good.
didn't
That's
back
good.
down. I didn't back down from that. I probably went to the school back in the day. All mine grown and gone now. Hallelujah. But back in the day, I
Hallelujah.
I probably went to the school more so for other people's children than I ever had to go for my own.
Wow.
Um,
Yes.
Parents will
Wow.
call me and
That's
say,
And
that's beautiful.
that that's something culturally sometimes we have to work so much we can't get away from
yes,
work to
yes.
even go advocate for our children.
Child,
So it's
Tyson Porter
important to
much
have
Sunday.
people like you who will are willing to do that.
Yeah. Tyson Porter ain't care nothing about that. They didn't care nothing about you at a parent teacher conference. You need to be on that line on
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
time.
Oh yeah. I
So
can
what they would
remember. I want to say that if I can say this for the Lumen, because I'll be looking out. But I want to just add and piggyback to what you were saying in that I remember before I took my children out of the public school. I was sharing with them earlier. I homeschooled my children for 7 years, or my daughter for 7, my son for 6. And I remember one of the reasons why I pulled them out was they felt that way about us. I told Charles, I told my husband, I said, look, we married and we come together. And I said,
Mhm.
just a black man walking in the room.
Yes.
I said,
Yes.
you gotta
And
understand anything. You ain't gotta say nothing. Because
yeah.
they are not using for us to showing up. And they asked me, they say, let me ask you something. Who told you you can do this? Like who told you that who said that you can have a parent teacher conference? Like how you knew that? Like, first of all, I'm an
Hmm.
educator myself. And I had to
Hmm.
call a lot of parents in. It just makes a difference in
It
the
does.
child's life and in how they are treated because you don't forget school. And
Yeah,
I
you
think
don't. You
you
don't.
never forget how that those early years they are so impressionable, and that's why I was really going off. And I last week about this whole thing with the SNAP, I was like, we got to get these things in line before our children be snapping. But I hope you didn't lose your thought. But I wanted to just concur with you
No, I
on
didn't
what I
lose
was
my
saying
thought.
about. Yes, they like who told you that you could have a conference like
Yes, yes. And another thing we need to do is read, and if we read and we cannot understand it, not be embarrassed that we don't understand it. Because a lot of times we talk when you come from the education sector or you come from the social service sector, we talk in a language that, like I give an example. Being a food stamp case manager for well over 20 years, and now advanced to a trainer and a curriculum writer. I would not ask you for proof of enumeration. If I say, well, what is I need your proof of enumeration. You'll probably say, well, what is that? That's the language that we talk in. But if I say, I need to know your social security number, you understand it. And a lot of times we take our book knowledge and we
Mm.
sometimes tell that knowledge. We got a lot of acronyms and a lot of what, because whenever I found out my child had a diagnosis, I went to reading it, anything that
Oh
had to
yes,
do with it.
definitely.
I read it and I asked questions, and and back then, that was 28 years ago, we didn't have no Google to ask.
Right,
So
right,
I
right,
was
right.
like researching and trying to find out as much about it as myself. Even the medication that my children take and that I take, I research it. I don't have to accept everything that somebody throw at me.
So to sum it up, to say this as we close out, to say to the people, um, to say who you, as you said, who you are, when we could expect you again, what's to come
Okay.
with your book,
Okay.
and the two nuggets, because you said two things in what you said. To close out with that, who you are, and when we're gonna see you again, and what to
Okay.
come for you.
So I hope that Lou and I can get together really, really soon. But Thursday nights may be an issue for me. I had a previous obligation before I jumped on. So I was excited to see that you all were still up and rolling
Yes,
whenever
yes.
I got off. But I did publish a book, and it actually came out last week. It's called Functioning Dysfunctionally, Serving Through Trauma.
Yay.
And it'll be back up on Amazon on tomorrow, but it came out last Friday. I believe it was last Thursday or last Friday. And I think it was Thursday. But it talks about how I served God by not believing God. I didn't even believe in God, but I was going to church every Sunday. Simply because I was praying a prayer that he would bring my mom back home. My mom has been gone for 28 years. For over 22 years, 23 of those years, I really thought she was dead. Like, I went to do missing persons report. We do computer searches. We go on these um, extravaganzas, car rides on Saturday mornings, hoping to find her. And it was almost like we went to a certain place and she moved 3 months ago without a forwarding address.
Wow.
We took several, my sister, my husband, myself, even my brothers went from time to time, just on a trail. And I had a prophet. I had a prophet call me to her home. And I'm not gonna tell you too much. Not
Okay.
gonna tell you
All
too
right.
much.
Okay. Well, we're gonna be
Um,
looking to see that. So, what's the title of the book
it's called
and
functioning dysfunctioning.
functioning
Functioning
dysfunction?
functioning dysfunctionally. Serving through
Okay.
trauma. And
Okay. And we're gonna be doing some different things. We're gonna make sure
okay,
we get you on here. We're gonna work out
okay,
something with this time
okay. We're
and
gonna
all
work
of
out.
that because we
Yeah.
want to bring your professionalism, and we talked about this earlier this year. When we was able to grace y'all with our first
Yes.
performance, yeah, at your
Lou performed at my
30
30th
years.
wedding anniversary.
Yes,
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 she
which was so
did. Her and
beautiful.
Sherry.
Yes,
I
which
thank
was
God
so
for that.
beautiful. Yes,
Mhm.
yes, yes. So we'll be looking out for the book. You say it'll be on there tomorrow,
It'll be
functioning
on there tomorrow.
dysfunctionally.
Functioning dysfunctionally.
Okay,
And,
dysfunctionally.
and I drop
Yes.
it in the chat. I drop it
Yeah,
in the
drop it
chat.
in the chat. Yeah, so
Hmm.
we can all follow you and be a support. And we want you to come on again. But thank you
Yes.
so much. I know Facebook family and friends, y'all hang on in there. I know this more than 25 minutes or less, but I
Oh,
had
okay.
two beautiful
25.
guests. Thank you, kid. And so we have talked
Nice to
about this
meet
is
you.
have been our thinking full segment. We had two amazing, beautiful guests for our listening party, and we talked about how our children, how we got to be aware of our children are being overly diagnosed, misdiagnosed, and not even diagnosed,
Hmm.
as Tara brought in and said that, but we're going to create a safe place, an environment that is conducive for them to be able to receive the therapy, the treatment that they need. And we're going to be
Yes.
aware of it. And we're going to go and be an advocate for our child. We're going to go to the parent and teachers conference. We're going to build coalition. We're going to find out who out there like a Tara when you have to work. As kids say,
I
because
know
all
that's
of us
right. Because
can't
it
get
takes a
there.
village. It takes a
Takes a
village.
village, and I'm so grateful for my visit. So this
Mm-hmm.
has been our Thinking Full Thursday segment, our listening party. Thank you
Okay.
so much. I hope we was able to give some direction and guidance this week. I missed that last week because I was just kind of a little bit frustrated, but I did say that I was going to tell you all how we can help the SNAP situation. Look, Google it and see
All
how you can
right.
help it in your area.
That's
God
right.
bless you all. I love you to life.
Thank you. Love y'all.
All
Nice to
right.
meet
Peace
you.
out.
Love
All right.
Nice
you.
seeing you,
Bye-bye.
Lou.
All right. You too, Sarah.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.